Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to the 2025 annual meeting of the Arizona Town Hall. We are here to change the guard a little bit, here to hear from some fantastic speakers, I'm sure, and also select some topics moving forward. I am Greg Falls, and for about another 45 minutes, I am the board chair. And at that point, I will retire from that position when we change over positions. But for now, I will start the meeting. And for those of you that are here in person, welcome. Thank you for coming out. This is nice with this covered parking right next door here and everything, right? I really like it. And for those of you that are virtual and online, thank you. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it that you took time out of your day. I have in front of me a little run of show that tells me that I am supposed to introduce the president of the Arizona Town Hall. You all know who she is, and let's just give her a minute to make sure that our PowerPoint presentation is working. All right. The president of Arizona Town Hall, and she's keeping that job, by the way, she didn't get to retire yet, is Tara Jackson. Tara.
Thank you, Greg. And we just had a board meeting. So for some of the past board chairs in the room or online, just because you step down as board chair doesn't mean we don't know where to find you. But I have been here for, 19 and a half years now as president of Arizona Town Hall. Let's go back one slide, Alex, if you don't mind. The clicker wasn't working, so I'm going to have Alex do double duty. Before I get started, I want to talk about, very briefly, go to that sponsor slide. We can't do any work that we do without people helping to financially sponsor us and in-kind sponsorships. And for today, I want to give a special call out to two of our financial sponsors for this program, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona and Vitalis Health Foundation. So a big round of applause to both of them. Convening a statewide group of people, both in person and online, to talk about some of the most important issues facing our state is a really valuable thing, but it is not about puppies or backpacks. So sometimes it's more challenging for a group like ours to get that financial support, but very, very meaningful. So thanks again to them. And then Greg mentioned this great facility. Once that works, you can hand it back to me if you need to, and I'll be happy to do that. This great facility for hosting programs as well as wonderful parking. So our in-kind sponsors for this facility here, Maricopa Community Colleges and Rio Salado College. Let's give a shout out to them as well. Like so many of our other partners, we share a common mission that really builds on the work that we each do. And we will be integrating our mission and partnership even more with them going forward in a way that brings value to both of our organizations in much deeper and greater ways. So looking forward to that. So now the Arizona Town Hall, I mentioned I've been president for 19 and a half years. In this morning's board meeting, Greg and I realized we probably both got introduced to what it was like to be a recorder about 30 years ago. Hard to believe it's been that long. What an amazing organization. For those of you who are newbies to Arizona Town Hall, we've been around since 1962, and we have done a lot in that time. Our mission has never changed. How we implement it has changed, just as it always must. This slide here has some pictures from many years ago and some from current years, showing kind of the diversity throughout the years of this really important Arizona grown organization. And I want to add, as you look at this collage of photos, some dating back to the early 1960s when Arizona Town Hall was started, some from this past year, I want to add that this process is so unique and valuable that we now are being called upon by delegations from other countries all the time to present the process to them so that they can take it back to their parts of the world and bring in the incredibly important perspective of bringing in different voices to solve a problem. So, for all of you who have been involved as long as Greg and I, some of you even longer, Barry Aaron's, maybe some others even longer. Thank you for your leadership and support. So, we always like to spend a little bit of time at this meeting saying, well, what did we do since last year at this time? If I were to summarize that, would actually probably take a couple of hours. I'm going to make it more like 30 seconds. We did a lot. You can see it in many of our reports. You can see it just from some of the photos here. We not only do community town halls across the state on the topic that is chosen, and you who stay will be choosing the topic for 2 years from now, but we do training, we do leadership programs. We are hired by many different groups, whether government or private groups, to use our process to help with strategic planning, to help with guiding policies, whether it's on economic development, workforce development, the future of our court systems, mental health. And last year alone, we engaged over 3,000, maybe more people using our process and helping to guide Arizona's communities in the best direction possible. So just check out any of our reports on the way out. You might be especially interested to see our summary of voting and elections, which was a fascinating topic to take on last year throughout the state. That's just part of what we do. It's a lot, it's wonderful, it's amazing. And again, thanks to all of you who are a part of that all the time. Some of our professionals I see in the room, whether retired or not, who lend your time and talents to help facilitate these programs around the state. Really, Arizona is so lucky to have you engaging in this work. This year, we've already gotten started on so many things. Our topic for this year is workforce development. We launched the background report just a couple months ago. It is being used already across the state and by people engaged in this work. On the table as you came in or as you leave, we have a few copies of the background report, but we also have these postcards where you can download the QR code and go to that report immediately. It's online. We've had people who have asked if they can have hard copies to utilize for their organizations. We now have on our website where you can buy copies directly if you want to use that. It's an incredible training manual. It also happens to look really pretty. I see Dimitri looking through it. Dimitri, just hold it up for those in the audience. Thank you. Dimitri acting as Vanna White all the way from Sierra Vista. Wonderful job, Dimitri. And again, as I look across for those in the room, and I know online, we have people from around the state here, every corner. This is really important as we as Arizonans try to move together through the next years. So if you are interested in a community town hall or discussion on this topic, see us, come to us. We may already have something scheduled in your community. If not, we can put a program together for you very, very quickly. We also do trainings on our process. We do leadership training. Just contact us or write anything on a card and turn it in to us before you leave or in the chat room. Kind of covered this, so I'm just gonna, international relations. I just want to bring that up real quick. Thanks to Linda Elliott Nelson, who's online with us today from the great city of Yuma, who has some amazing leaders. Our International Relations Committee has really taken off, not only doing programs in the region, Arizona and Mexico region, but doing programs for some of those delegations I mentioned from around the world. And we've already had a variety of programs this year. Many of them are recorded because they're online. Even if you're not as interested in issues outside of Arizona, those programs this year are very insightful just on the topic of workforce development, whether it's on AI, which I'm not sure I knew what that meant even 16 months ago. Now it seems like it's running everything. or on some of the other issues that are really important, whether you live in a small rural community. And not that rural Arizona should be an issue. I'm just joking, Kimber. She'll be talking on that topic in a minute. Of course, we at Arizona Town Hall believe rural Arizona is as important and critical, and the voices from that area are as important as critical as those from the great state of Maricopa. So, always important. So we can't do any of this without all of you. And that's really important to note here, whether it's organizational partnerships like the ones I mentioned today, these customized services or contracts that people have for us. And Barry, there's a microphone right next to you. Would you mind turning that on? Or individual support and legacy giving, people leaving us in their wills. I just brought up Barry Aarons, not only because he's been around town hall longer than me, we learned this morning, but he's here and he's chair of our development committee. So I'm just going to give him, a few seconds if he has anything he wants to add. Thank you, Barry.
Giving me a microphone and telling me I've got a few seconds is just not a doable thing.
1 minute.
Deb knows that, right? We've got a real active development committee, and development doesn't just mean raising money. Development means doing things the old way and looking for ways to do things the new way. And we've been working really hard on all of these projects. I don't have to talk about the different partnerships and so on, but I will say this, and as many of you know, I have taught for years fundraising all over the country. And one of the things I always start with is development is what it's all about. Development means meeting people and organizations and developing them, bringing them along, getting them interested to the point where they're willing to give one of three things that are the only things that are important in an organization like ours: time, treasure, and talent. And talent, you can develop that. Treasure, we can raise that. We haven't done as good a job as I would like to do, but we have. But time is the one thing that once you give it, that is the most important gift you can give, because you can never get it back. We've got I actually had one woman this morning who volunteered to serve on our, Jackie, where are you? She made the mistake of saying, well, gee, I'd like to work on development. So would you please add her to the development committee?
Okay.
And anybody else. But thank you all for what you do. And thank you to my development committee, especially Darren, who do such a terrific job.
Thanks so much, Barry. Wonderful. Thank you again. And next, we're here to support an important legacy. And for those of you who didn't know, Shirley Agnos, who really was the heart and soul of Arizona Town Hall for decades, for 42 years, she was here helping to lead the organization. She passed away earlier this year. And when she not only left the legacy of the incredible talents and this organization she built, she was one of the people who left us in her will, which is also, we're incredibly grateful to her for that. But her legacy was far beyond anything that she might leave us to help us continue to do the work. Her legacy was in creating this organization, in being the example of amazing leadership. When she retired back in 2007 completely, she retired, there was an award named after her. And every year we give out this award in her name. And so this year, you see 3 awards up here. There's a reason for that. The middle one was the one originally given to Shirley Agnos, which has now come back to us with her passing. I thought it was fitting to bring it here today. And it's also a fitting year that we have not one, but 2 amazing people to present this award to. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back to our board chair for that presentation. Greg.
I said at the beginning that I didn't get to do a plenary session as board chair. Instead, I get to do this, which I think is far more fun, far more exciting. So I'm happy to be here to do this. The Shirley Agnos Legacy Award is given to people someone who are the criteria up here? Yeah. Then the criteria are displayed. So I have a rule about not reading from a PowerPoint, so I'm not going to do that. You can see the criteria. But they highly respected, highest integrity people who are really important to the state of Arizona. We have two people who fit that this year, and we couldn't pick one over the other, so we picked both of them. Congratulations. The first one is Suzanne Pfister. Suzanne, unfortunately can't be here in person, so she is joining us virtually. And I understand she will have a few words to say at the end after we virtually present her with the award. If you don't know Suzanne, most recently she is the president and CEO of Vitalist Health Foundation, a public foundation focused on Arizona health policy, technical assistance for nonprofits, and strength-based community engagement and systems change, and a big supporter of Arizona Town Hall. Suzanne has a master's degree in public and environmental affairs from Indiana University and a Bachelor of Arts in political science, urban studies from Occidental College. She currently, with Arizona Town Hall, serves as the Community Town Hall's committee chair, and she also is on the board of directors for Greater Phoenix Leadership and the Maasai Education, Research, and Conservation Institute. I had to look that up, and if you don't know who they are, they're impressive. I understand that the Vitalist people did a video on Shirley, about 5 minutes, and we're going to present that now. I'm sorry, on Suzanne.
I just sort of knew I wanted to be in public service. I mean, I'd seen what my parents had done on boards and stuff, and I just have always had this sense of servant leadership.
I first met Suzanne when she was asked to join the Flynn Foundation's Arizona Bioscience Steering Committee, and that was in 2002. She was a feisty, important member of that group that worked really hard to get the data right.
I've known Suzanne for probably 35 years. I met her through her father, Jack Pfister, who was an iconic leader in Arizona's business community. And Suzanne's been following in each and every step of his until she surpassed him.
I first met Suzanne Pfister in an interview. I knew of Suzanne before I actually met Suzanne. And so I was pretty intimidated going into the interview, I gotta say. I knew that she had great connections across the entire state. I knew that she came from a great family who's been in the state of Arizona for a long, long time. And I knew that I was applying for this job that I was really, really excited about.
She's been on the board and at leadership at Greater Phoenix Leadership, clearly a philanthropic leader in our community, and also a leader in healthcare.
You know, for a woman leader who became a leader at a time when there weren't a lot of women leaders and where it was more challenging, I think it's very easy for people to see the professional side, the person who gets things done, the person who's not afraid to say what needs to be done and to speak the truth, even if it is not easy to hear. Probably everyone knows that part of Suzanne as a leader. I think the part that I first saw on our drive to Thatcher and going through Globe at 5 in the morning as the sun is rising through the mountains is that emotional soft side that is the undercurrent to everything else. The desire to truly do the right thing, to be principled, and someone who really cares about everyone, not just those who hold leadership roles, but the homeless person on the street who's suffering from substance use. I think that's the side that a lot of people don't get to see in the professional capacity.
So she's taken the foundation from her dad and moved forward in remarkable ways, and I know he'd be proud.
Suzanne sets goals for herself, and she sets about achieving those goals by learning about things, becoming very knowledgeable about things, putting her heart and soul into the organizations that she is working with. She's able to build coalitions, which is something that not everybody can do. And she's fun.
I remember sitting in the back of a Senate Health Committee hearing with her when she was at Dignity and I was in the healthcare space, and we just sat in the back of the hearing room and made fun of people for the whole thing. I mean, she has a wicked sense of humor, very serious, but she's someone that I've just sort of known and evolved with through all of our different iterations, and there have been quite a few of them.
She's a really caring person.
Don't be afraid of being different. It's okay to not fit the norm.
That's a great piece of advice.
Everybody has heard her signature laugh. That goes a long way to breaking tensions and bringing people together.
I think there's multiple Suzanne Pfisters, right? Like, I don't know how she oversees a health foundation, like basically the largest health foundation in Arizona, how she manages to keep such close contacts with so many people throughout the state. She's on so many boards. And then she's also on this board in Africa to help make sure that community development is happening in African countries.
Use 3 words to describe Suzanne. And so I thought about it, and she's relentless and she's hardworking. But really, she's that Nike commercial, just do it.
Articulate, determined, prepared, but most of all fun.
She's tenacious, she's a connector, and she cares.
Principled. Everything about her leadership was principled and trying to do the right thing. Doing the right thing in being a servant leader, in working with communities, standing up to those who didn't. So that might lead to another one, courageous, speaking truth to power, courageous in trying new things, not being afraid to fail. The third one would be tenacious, doing the work and seeing the goal and working towards it no matter what the hurdles.
Say a few words to her directly, what would you say?
Thank you. Thank you for the mentorship. Thank you for the friendship. You have so many people across the state, more than you'll probably ever know, who you have influenced, who have a piece of you with them. They might not always realize that, but her legacy is embedded in this state forever.
Story of her?
I have.
Not that I'm willing to share. Not that I'm willing to share on video.
Sorry about that. I forgot that was there. I have one brief comment to add. She is a sailor. I've had a sailboat in 16 years. I've had a sailboat about 16 years in San Diego, and I've had the opportunity to sail with her many, many times. You know where she likes to sit? Up in front of the mast. Sun, fog, you name it, she sits up there, and it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to the next time we get to go. So, Suzanne Pfister, on behalf of the Arizona Town Hall, I am pleased to present to you the 2025 Shirley Agnos Arizona Town Hall Legacy Award.
Thank you so much, Greg. That's very touching. I went to my first town hall in 1984, and it over the years it has been a family affair. My dad, my mom, my uncle, lots of friends have joined me in all the years of attending, and it's been a real passion of mine, along with other things, but that keep me grounded. And I just want to say how honored I am to share this with Evelyn, and hope to continue participating in the future. So thank you.
Okay, we have another equally deserving person, Evelyn Casuga. Evelyn most recently serves as the Director of Community and Economic Prosperity for the Center for the Future of Arizona, part-time, and is on the Central Arizona College Governing Board. In addition to volunteering with Arizona Town Hall, her civic activities include, looks like everything, board service with Arizona Capital Source, Filipino American National Historic Society, Arizona, Growth Partners Arizona, Local First Arizona, and Pinal Alliance for Economic Growth. Evelyn retired from APS after 25 years, served nearly 10 years in municipal government, and has now over 10 years in the nonprofit sector. Currently, for about a few more minutes, she is the immediate past chair of the Town Hall Board, and she has been the leader of the Board Guidance Committee, selecting board members and officers and things like that. I understand that there may be some comments about Evelyn out there, and Tara's going to help us with that.
Thank you, Greg. So I see Sergio is here, who helped put together that amazing video that Vital has put together. It really was an amazing video. I watched that last Friday and thought, oh my gosh, we have to do something for Evelyn as well. But I don't have, no, there's no video. Don't worry. But you should be worried. Evelyn has no idea. So if you're here, on the table are some green cards. Some of you knew this ahead of time. You saw in the video for Suzanne, we were asked to say 3 traits that describe her, whether you have 1 or 3 or 4. I'm going to walk around quickly and I'll read off what you've written. Go ahead and fill some more out. Let's see. We'll see what, and maybe I'll mention the name. Hold them up if you have them. If you're online, Dedicated. That's a great one, Darren. He was sitting next to her, so he didn't have time to do more than one because she snuck up on him. Here's, you are so committed, energetic, passionate, and fun. Congratulations. By the way, we're going to save all these if humble pride and can do. Absolutely can do attitude. Oh my gosh, optimistic, cheerful, engaged, dedicated, inspirational, energizer, bunny. Oh wow, this has about 10. Amazing, legacy, kind, leader, communicator, supporter, innovator. I can't even read them all. Warm, friendly, thoughtful, sharp-witted, magnetic, authentic. Are we sure there is only one Evelyn? She's everywhere. Yes. Gosh, there's a few more, but remember, we're going to save all these. Inspiring. Oh, I like this one. Great dancer. Kind. Evelyn is a dancer. Welcoming, energetic, inquisitive, caring, collaborative, committed, transcendent, omnipresent. Saguaro white blossom. What's that mean? Oh, the state flower. Of course. Love that. All right, remember, we're going to save all these. Oh my gosh. Evelyn is on a first name basis with almost every community in Arizona. So true. She is Arizona. Oh, wow. Buoyant, positive, upbeat, uplifting, optimistic, enthusiastic. I should be a rap star right here. Prepared, adapted, curious, interested, open, caring, compassionate, generous, respectful, all on one card. Wow, you guys are awesome. Welcoming, open, energetic. We got a few more here. Life-changing, helpful, works for the greater good, involved, passionate, nice. We need more nice. I'm just going to do a few more. Evelyn, how's it going over there? I hope you're taking it all in. All-knowing, ever-present, a wonderful, wonderful friend to all, especially me. That's from Arlen. Energetic, everywhere, best friend, make it happen, can do attitude, energetic, brilliant, cheerful, hardworking, kind, fun, generous. I really do think that Kendrick Lamar has nothing on me. Now, if I could just do his dance, joyful, natural leader, kind, caring, respectful, rooted, humble, can do. Gosh, you guys are amazing, grounded, always welcoming of everyone, regardless of title or position. How important is that? How could you represent Town Hall more than with all those descriptive words? I see at least one more green card being held up. Traveler, connector. Yes, I'm seeing a theme. So again, if you just learned about writing these on the card, and some of you did, we will be collecting these all. Write some more if you didn't have a chance. We'll do something. It won't be the amazing video that Sergio and his friends put together, but we hope that it is just as meaningful. And I'll end with a few more. Energetic, passionate, role model. Absolutely, role model. Spontaneous, compassionate, relationship builder. Always smiling, optimistic leader. Fashionable. Oh, there's a new one. She is looking very fashionable today and well connected. Whoa. Yeah, that's amazing. All right, let's hear it for Evelyn. And the folks online are also putting this in chat, so we'll be collecting that as well. If we could just give you half back what you give to all of us, it would be wonderful. All right, congratulations.
I have a comment. For those of you that don't know, she lives in Casa Grande, which when I first moved to Arizona, I pronounced Casa Grande. But anyway, she thinks nothing of getting into her automobile and driving to an appointment in almost anywhere, just like the rest of us would just get in our automobile and drive to work. It's very impressive. She shared with me this morning that I think it took her 15 more minutes to drive here from her home than it took me from Central Scottsdale to get here. So she's not only a road warrior, she must be very fast too. So, Evelyn Casuga, on behalf of the Arizona Town Hall, I am pleased to present to you the 2025 Shirley Agnos Arizona Town Hall Legacy Award.
I'm glad I wrote what I was going to say, wrote it down, because I'm way off track now with all of your kind comments. And thank you, Greg and Tara, and all of you who shared your green card words. I'll keep those forever. So I am deeply, deeply honored and humbled, of course, to accept the Shirley Agnos Legacy Award from Arizona Town Hall. I thought you had to be a certain age, but I think I got there. So so here I am. So this recognition, of course, carries even a deeper meaning as we pay tribute to Shirley, as you've seen, a woman whose life and leadership embodied that courage and compassion and that steadfast belief in people. I mean, she was here for what, 40 years plus, and started this organization. And Shirley just didn't talk about civic engagement; she practiced and honed it. And in the last decade, as you've heard from Tara and
This is where I'm supposed to be the tour operator.
And you're just standing.
It's 7:30.
Yeah.
It's the week of Monday.
Welcome. Yeah, Alex will take care of that. We have technology. So in the last decade, so Arizona Town Hall has even expanded and created space for more voices that have been long overlooked, and where we've seen more impact when we bring people together across, and all of you know this, geography, race, ideology, but with respect and shared purpose. So I'm also proud to share this award with someone I deeply admire, Suzanne. I know you're on the call, and as you've heard, Suzanne's dedication to public service, thoughtful leadership, and that advocacy for community well-being, they're just some small examples of the values this award represents. And it's a privilege to share the recognition, Suzanne. And for me, this moment is deeply personal. I'm the daughter of Filipino immigrants who came to this country seeking opportunity. My parents were farm workers, hardworking people who rose before the sun and labored in the fields and the fruit packing houses so I could have a different life. They didn't have titles, wealth, or political power, but they were unwavering in their belief in democracy, education, and in giving back. That belief shaped me. As some of you know, I've spent a fair amount of my professional life working in rural Arizona, where I've had the honor of serving communities. I'm looking at our former mayor in Casa Grande sitting over there. But I've seen challenges firsthand: disinvestment, lack of access to resources, healthcare, transportation. But I've also seen, as some of you out there have also seen, resilience, generosity, and that quiet everyday leadership that often goes unnoticed. And that's why civic engagement matters so much, because democracy isn't something that only happens in the big city. It happens in the town council in Clarkdale. at the school board meeting in Eloy, at the tribal council table, in a small town library where neighbors gather to learn and share. So it happens when people feel seen, respected, and invited to the conversation. We honor Shirley's legacy by continuing to open those doors like she opened for me and keeping them open. I know we live in a time when democracy feels fragile, but I don't believe it's broken. I believe it's calling us. It's calling us to listen, to lead with empathy, and to lift up that next generation. Looking at my colleagues over there. And we owe them more than just access to the ballot. We owe them that culture of belonging, that sense of civic purpose, Tara, the other Tara, and a belief that their voice truly matters. That's the kind of legacy I want to be a part of and contribute to. One not built on titles or accolades, but on relationships, mentorship, and that fierce commitment to making room for others, especially those who have been left out for far too long or under threat of being erased. Shirley showed us that leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room. In fact, that is not the town hall way. It's about creating room where more voices are heard. So today, I accept this honor for my parents, for rural Arizona, and many who've been with me on this journey, and especially of every young person who doesn't yet see themselves reflected in leadership, but they will because we made the way clearer. Thank you, Arizona Town Hall, for continuing to be a leader of civil dialogue and civic action in our state. And thank you for this honor and believing, like Shirley did, in the power of every voice. So thank you.
Now she's going to make me cry. Boy, between Suzanne and Evelyn, we are truly blessed to have leaders like both of you here. And what amazing, incredible, perfect words. And Evelyn, you are the example of everything you just said. And just by living that example, all of us, whether it is that conversation with a young person who feels left out, and I know Evelyn does that, or whether it is speaking truth to power, as both you and Suzanne absolutely do, in different ways, right? We can all follow those examples, and together, that's what the town hall is about: exercising civic leadership, showing what it's like to be respectful of all voices, encouraging all youth, all people in our communities to be a constructive part of that community, and standing up for all of them in a respectful way. I am so glad that your parents chose to immigrate here. And I am so glad that between California and Arizona, you had the opportunities to become the leader that you have been for the state and the rural communities. So thanks again, Evelyn. So now we're going to move on to the change. Greg kind of referenced it. This is kind of our meeting where we do a little bit of change of the guard. I think one of the strengths of Arizona Town Hall over the years is a system set in place to always have some board members leaving and some new ones coming on, with the goal of representing the entire state, representing all the voices of the state. And once a board member leaves, don't worry, we know where to find you, and we know that you are usually very committed still. If you have the time to keep doing the town hall work. I see some former board members in the room who are here today volunteering. So we just want to say a special thank you for those who are terming off, who we know will still be involved. Evelyn is one of them, but she'll still be involved. We work together all the time on consulting. Terry Drew, who I think is online, Shamari Jackson, Eric Marcus, who has now moved to Florida, Shelley Mellon from Yuma, Jenny Torres from San Luis, Heath Viscovi-Chiordi from Tucson, who is still going to be working with me in Tucson, Deanna Villanueva Saucedo. By the way, this Hoosier could not say any of those names when I first moved here. So I've learned, thank you to all of you who are teaching me that. And last but not least, Patrick Welch, who I know will continue to be involved in our International Relations Committee. So let's just give a round of applause for those who are going out as board members. Then we have this wonderful group who's continuing on with their board term. I won't read all these names out in the interest of time. But if you are here in the room, would you just mind standing so we can acknowledge you, our current board members who are continuing on. Thank you. Thank you for your service. And whether it's in this room or online, some of you wouldn't know this, but I already see the entire state represented just by you standing up. We've got Sierra Vista, Dimitri down south. We've got a couple of folks from Mojave County, Tucson. Anyway, wonderful to have you here. We look forward to continuing that work. And then we're welcoming our new board members, Gilbert Davidson, who turned off the board but is coming back on. He's either, I think he's online, or he was at least with the board meeting. Paola, you're in here, right? She was here for the board meeting. Maybe she had to leave. Centra Hoffman, Paul Ferris from up north, and then Carolyn Thrasher from Center for the Future of Arizona. So let's just give a round of applause for our new board members as well. Wonderful to have you here. And again, just with those new ones representing all different parts of the state, as well as other perspectives. So now, Greg, it's almost that time. It's the time we like to call the passing of the bell from our previous board chair to the next one. Now, did all of you see the glee and smiles Greg had when he opened up this meeting with the official town hall bell ringing it? This bell, by the way, has been with the town hall since 1962. I guard it with my life. But it is a special significance in so many ways. It has guided so many community conversations. And we know that when a board chair gets a hold of that, they never want to let it go. So what we do, and Greg, it's been wonderful to have you as board chair. He's been so involved for so many years. But so that you don't have, I'm going to go ahead and open it up slightly for you. He knows what's coming. We have his own personally engraved working bell that, yes, go ahead and you can give a round of applause. That he will get to use whenever he likes. And by the way, he gets a special bonus this year. The trophy company kind of messed up the first one, but then they let us keep it. So he gets two. His wife doesn't know this yet, but I think one's going home. But in our last board meeting, which was this morning, our last board meeting with Greg as board chair, I always give just a fun gift. You heard him mention sailing. Well, he has truly been the captain of our ship for these last 2 years, steering us through. Oh, he's getting out. This was my special gift to him, representing his service as board chair, a captain's hat for when he's on his boat with a couple of town hall pins, including the town hall rosette. He's steered us through a lot, and I know he will continue to provide his time and talents to us as he moves into a new role. But I can't thank him enough for all he's done over the years. And now I'm going to turn it back to Greg. Greg.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Appreciate the kind comments. I shared with the board this morning. I remember it was some 31, 32 years ago where I was in a room with a bunch of lawyers and we were auditioning to become recorders. And it was very intimidating. And I think our work product sucked universally. But somehow or another, I fooled Shirley Agnos into deciding that I should be a recorder. So she called me on to be a recorder at the Grand Canyon for a multi-day town hall. And everything else is history. I've done that many times, many other things for town hall, to the point where I eventually became the chair of the training committee to train others. I never would have thought that day back in the early 90s that I would be up here in this capacity. So I really appreciate the Arizona Town Hall for giving me that opportunity. This is the day, approximately mid-June 2 years ago, when I became the board chair. And it was a daunting task a little bit. And part of the reason was because immediately preceding me as board chair was this woman, Evelyn Casuga, and she set the bar up here. And before her, I see in the back of the room was Pat Norris, I think, and she set the bar even higher. So I just hope that over the last 2 years, I've been able to jump and at least touch it 1 or 2 times. We did a program, a whole year program on equity. Equity is a dirty word now, but back when we did the program, it was a word that mattered. And we discovered different people have a different view of what is equity, but it was a good program and I think it was productive. The next year, of course, it being an election year, we decided to do elections. So we did a bunch of programs all over the place on elections. Interesting. And I didn't go to all of them, but I went to a few, and Tara reported on things that happened at some of the others. And I think it was successful. I think the town hall process in both of the areas that I observed was successful, and people appreciated what we did. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce Darren Waschek. Darren has been the chair-elect for the last year. He is, I think of him as a consultant, private businessman. He's the kind of guy that, with respect to town hall, he comes in and says, let's do this, or in a different way, or he comes up with a better way to do things that we're doing. He's a very smart man. He's been on the development committee doing customized services, which is a fancy word for if you need the town hall process, we'll come to you and we'll give it to you on any topic anywhere. Now he is taking over as the board chair. And Darren, I am pleased to present to you the town hall bell, not mine, but the original town hall bell, and you can have it. Thank you, sir. I am done with the podium. I'm going to sit down and be quiet.
See him smiling all the way to up here and down again. He said that regularly, and I'll recognize Greg here in just a moment. First, I want to recognize, if I could, extend some thanks to my family. I have my two of my 3 daughters here. Laurel in the back doing some filming, I can see. She's always great at doing that. Sophia helped with the check-in today, and she is volunteering. So she's helping out with the town hall. My oldest daughter, Acacia, is currently in Argentina doing some work for her final degree program. And she has also volunteered for town hall because she is very fluent in Spanish, helping with the Arizona-Mexico programs. And she also is helping with a special project. If you go online right now, you can access the town hall background reports, but only going back to about 2008. And when I asked Acacia if she would help to digitize all these background reports that have so much incredible research behind them, she jumped right in and helped us to do that. So hopefully by the end of the year, the research reports like you have Dimitri just shared with us and held up, those are all going to be digitized and available for the world by the end of the year. Because again, it's so much good research. We want that to still be around. I want to congratulate the Shirley Agnos winners, Suzanne and Evelyn. I actually thought you guys already got this award, to be honest with you. So it was a given that you would do that. So congratulations to both of you on that. I want to thank the outgoing board members for your service. I want to welcome the incoming board members and appreciate your input for the organization. It's always much appreciated. And then I want to thank the current board members for your continued service. And then I want to also recognize that I have the privilege today to be in front of you as the gauntlet passes, if you will, the bell passes. But I also want to thank Greg very much for your leadership and everything that you've done for the organization way beyond the last 2 years. That's perhaps your crowning achievement, but there was so much more that came before that. So thank you for that. And the vice chair is Marisol Vidiola from Tucson. Anna Chalk is stepping in as our secretary. And April Jones, where's April in here? April, thank you. April is stepping in as treasurer and then also the executive committee. I wanted to do one other thing, and that is to recognize past chairs that are here. Obviously, Evelyn and Greg. Pat Norris, want to recognize you as well. Linda Elliott Nelson is online as a past board chair. And there's a little bit of a thread that runs through several of these that Greg and I both, I guess, have to live up to. And that is that Evelyn, Pat, and Linda were all Shirley Agnos Award winners. So there's something to be said for that. I did want to recognize one other past chair. This goes all the way back to 1983. And by the way, I'm the 29th chair of the board, going back to 1962. But I want to recognize that in 1983-85, Jack Pfister, Suzanne's father, was the chair of the board. And there's another fun fact that Evelyn asked me, did you know Jack Pfister? I knew Jack. He was a professor of mine in the MPA program, Master Public Administration program at ASU, where he was a adjunct faculty. And in fact, he was a member of my PhD committee. So Jack was wonderful. And thank you, Suzanne, for sharing him with me a little bit and the rest of us. So I appreciate that. Let me see here. I want to give a little bit of recognition to the Shirley Agnos, because she's the one that I met when I started as an ASU student with the town hall. And town hall was bringing in young people to the organization. And I was working on my master's degree at the time. And I did my first town hall. That was the 70th in May of 1997 in Prescott, when we were going between Prescott and the Grand Canyon, forging an appropriate transportation system for Arizona. And Shirley dragged me in as a member of what was at that time the follow-up committee. We were trying to make sure that once we made recommendations to the state, that there was follow-up, follow-through. What were we doing to make sure that those ideas had a place? And so she dragged me in and said, "You're on this committee." I brought my brother. I have a twin brother, by the way, Devin. He's not in the country right now, or he'd be joining us today. But I brought my brother in, and he was made a member of the research committee. He's still a member of the research committee, and he actually was on the board before I was. So about 2 years after he dropped off the board, then I joined the board in 2018, and member of the development committee, customized services, the executive committee. And I will tell you right now, it is truly an honor to be the chair of the Arizona Town Hall Board of Directors. So I am grateful for this honor. A couple things that Greg mentioned, and that is that I am, as a small business owner, very interested in operations and making sure that organizations function well. And I've had the privilege to work with Tara on some of the things that the town hall is trying to do to become better as an organization. So thank you for being a good listener and collaborator on that, Tara. I appreciate it. But I get to continue doing that, except in a slightly different capacity. So my number one objective for the next 2 years is to make sure that the organization is left in a very strong position. That is my 100% objective and goal as an organization. And that is to make sure that we continue to strengthen and grow the partnership with the Maricopa Community College District, and making sure that we're supporting them. And then also making sure that we make the most of probably our most valuable resource, and that's Tara Jackson. there's no doubt in my mind that there will be an award for her, like there was for Shirley, like there is for Shirley, when her time passes. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that Tara is supported as best as she can through the organization. What I want to do now is move on to how do we pick the topics to be considered for the Arizona Town Hall. So you've already heard about building Arizona's workforce. That's 117th that we're working on this year. That was selected in 2023, 2 years ago. And that was Shirley Agnos's last event, if I'm not mistaken. So the topic we're doing this year was the last event that Shirley was able to participate in. And I remember her being at that meeting. I think many of you probably do. The 2026 topic that we're doing next year, as you guys have heard, is going to be on housing. We selected that last year. And then the topic that we're selecting this year will be the 119th town hall topic. And that's going to be one that you will participate in, we hope, in 2027. In order to pick the topic leading to today, there was an annual survey that was sent out to many people across the state in order to gather thoughts on what should the state be focusing on? What are the important issues that we need to be thinking about? That information is gathered in, and then it's sorted out to, well, what are the top 3 topics? Is there a theme that comes from those top 3 topics? And that's how we ultimately select the speakers that we're going to have today presenting on each of those topics for us. When we're done hearing from our speakers, who I will be able to introduce here in just a moment, once we hear from our speakers, then what we're going to do is we're going to all convene into our panels. And you all see on your table this pink sheet. Your name is on there. And you have either panel Hedgehog, panel Octio, or panel Saguaro. And again, you're assigned to the panel. And we also have our panel chairs and also recorders. You can see there, Elizabeth and Jan for the first, Joyce, Nina, and then Pat and Arlen for the third. We also have our online panel for Zoom. So that will be led by Linda Elliott Nelson. She will do that part of it with the help of Alex over here. And so you guys will convene after we hear from our speakers and all the great information they have to share with us. Then you'll have a chance to vote. Not only vote, but throw out if there are any other topics besides the 3 that we're going to discuss. Are there any others that you want to bring forward for us to consider? So there is the freedom to do that. Typically, we see the 3 topics getting the most discussion, but that doesn't mean we can't do other ones. And so now I'm only a couple minutes beyond here, Tara, so I'm holding it together okay. Now what I want to do is introduce our speakers, and we're so grateful to have you here. The first speaker that's going to be presenting to us on rural Arizona, you have Kimber Lanning's bio in the program for today on your table, but I'll just do a quick synopsis or summary, and then we'll invite Kimber up here. So she's the CEO and founder of Local First Arizona. It's an organization that implements systems, programs, and policies which ensure a level playing field and increased access to capital for entrepreneurial endeavors and communities across Arizona. She works to cultivate through Local First Arizona, works to cultivate strong, self-reliant communities that enable a higher quality of life for people across Arizona. And Kimber has been asked to help us in many ways. In fact, she was just here for our Building Arizona Workforce Background Report launch and also shared information with us there. So welcome back, Kimber. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you all so much for having me here. I'm always excited to talk about rural. How many of you live in rural or grew up in rural? Okay, about maybe 25% of the room. So for those of you who live in rural currently, I want to express my gratitude to you for, not that you had a say in it, but for giving me grace for standing up here. I grew up in Glendale, Arizona, albeit when we moved to Arizona in Glendale, there were 13,000 people there. So kind of qualifies by today's standards, right? But make no mistake, I do not live in rural. What I do is advocate for rural fiercely. And what I didn't know is when I was growing up, I grew up with both sets of grandparents were entrepreneurial. My parents were entrepreneurial. So I knew 10 Arizona lakes by the time I was 6 years old. And we jumped in the van and drove everywhere and we camped out. And my parents knew all of these small business owners all around the state of Arizona. And I grew a deep passion for rural. In fact, my mother spent most of her adult life in Sedona, my brother in Jerome, my other brother in Cornville. We had rural throughout my entire life. So of the questions that I want to talk to you about today, the things I want to get you thinking about, I'm going to kick us off by asking, how many of you think you can name 3 of the top industries in Arizona today? 3. Raise your hand right over here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to couch citrus and agriculture and agribusiness. Okay. And I'm going to couch copper in the mining industry. Okay. Those are 2 right in there. Electronics, we could potentially stretch that into sort of a renewable energy kind of a category. Anybody else want to take a stab? Yes. Semiconductor. Okay. Anybody else? Tourism. That's a good one. Any others that we haven't heard? Okay. So I'm gonna take you through a list of the biggest industries in the state of Arizona. Number 1 is agriculture and agribusiness. And I just want to pepper my conversations with some thoughts for you to consider. We have a state legislature right now that refers to agriculture as antiquated. By a show of hands, how many of y'all eat food? I'm just saying. Okay. Number 2 is mining and natural resources, massive for the state of Arizona. Where are those mines located? Yeah. All right. Number 3 is tourism and outdoor recreation. You got that one right over there. Energy production, renewable and fossil fuels. Those are scattered throughout rural Arizona. Next up is forestry and timber products. Okay. We're talking about billions of dollars. Next up, number 6 on the list is the first one that is not rural based, and it is manufacturing and industrial goods. That gives you a perspective, right? When you live in Phoenix, you think that's number 1. Woo! It's number 6. Okay, next up, livestock and meat processing, which they couch separately from agriculture. So that gives you an even broader idea of how much is driven in the agriculture window. Forestry and wood products is number 8. Real estate and land development is number 9. Remember when they ruled the earth? Do you all remember? For so many years, we hung our hat on real estate. And it was a battle to get us to think in a more diverse way. And number 10 is healthcare and social services. So of the top 10 industries in the state of Arizona, 7 of them are rural based. Okay, so now let's contrast that with a recent report that just came out on the number of jobs that were created in Arizona. And there's a lot of fanfare. Oh, all these jobs that were created. But let's drill down into those jobs. 85% of those were created in Maricopa County. 10% of those were created in Pima County. That leaves 5% of new job creation in our state happening across 13 other counties that house the 7 biggest industries driving our state's economy. So as a result, we have this massive bias in attention, in resources, and frankly, the swagger that happens in Maricopa County causes the rest of our state to call it the great state of Maricopa, right? I saw Dimitri smile. I saw that. It's true. And we have to work so hard to think a little bit differently and to recognize that rural priorities don't line up with what we assume across all these different sectors that Town Hall has done such a tremendous job of highlighting. So is it the right time to talk about rural? Is the topic incredibly important for rural, I submit that it's long overdue. And the fact that we haven't addressed that rural economies need a different type of economic development than our urban areas do, the fact that we haven't addressed that has led us to this immense political divide that we live in right now. We cannot go into rural communities with a plug and play model. This is economic development. Show me your shovel ready sites. Doesn't work. They need different priorities. They need different investments. They need different strategies to build success. I submit to you, and this is so important for us to all consider, that the lack of access and the deliberate divestment in our rural communities has directly led to the angst and anxiety that has created the rural urban divide. And Town Hall is just the organization that can do something about that can bring together people from around the state to have those conversations. And it's never been more important. Rural Arizona is home to more than 1 million Arizonans. And those folks need a seat at the table. They need to be heard. So let's talk about whether or not it will have significant impact. I talked a little bit about the political climate and the rural urban divide. But I think it's important for us to look at Arizona's overall economic development strategy. Our economic development strategy, we just talked about, used to be focused just on real estate and development and growth. And we found ourselves in the habit of thinking that success means growth. We measure, in Arizona, we measure success by growth. And I submit by growth and growth alone. In fact, we buy into this myth that if we're not growing, we're going to die. We can prove time and time again that isn't true. And I ask you, what if we were a state that measured success by health and well-being of our communities and meeting communities where they're at and letting them define what their priorities are and what success means to them, instead of coming in and saying, this is our measure. What about what they want to prioritize, right? I think that this growth model is steering us right off a cliff. I think it needs to be analyzed, right? I'm Thelma, if somebody wants to join me in Louise style. We do not have the infrastructure for energy. We do not have the long-term strategies for water. We do in some parts of the state, but in other parts of the state, we do not. So what I'd like to encourage us to think about is, if we select rural as a topic, me and my team, we are the Rural Development Council. We are in to help however we can. But I would encourage us to think about approaching it as a hub and spoke model. And the reason is, generally, Town Hall does an exceptional job at looking at economic development, looking at workforce development, looking at education, looking at healthcare. But the topic of rural includes all of those. And so when you put rural in the middle of it, I think we're going to have to expand the way we convene folks into smaller subsets to explore those different areas and what they mean in rural. It's a different way of looking at the conversation, because rural has its own lens in all of those tremendous topics. And Town Hall has done them for so many years and so wonderfully. But to center rural communities at this critical time in history, where our rural communities are being hit hard. I don't know if somebody over here was from Mojave County. The district that is in Mojave County landed in the top 10 in the nation, top 10 districts in the nation that is having funding swept away, and all the jobs that go with them. So at this critical time, when our rural communities are being hit tremendously hard, we need to find out and unlock some of the success stories for what can make a difference in retaining talent in our rural towns, in bolstering education. There's so many little stories that I could tell you. I learned from my friend Evelyn Vargas in the Globe Miami area. She's been there her whole life. And she said, oh, I'll tell you exactly when our schools started struggling. Because look at Globe Miami. How many historical leaders can we tick off of our fingers who have led this state through thick and thin? And then all of a sudden, the faucet turned off. For 3 generations, Globe Miami leadership led this across many industries and sectors. And she said, I'll tell you when it turned off. It turned off the minute the mines stopped requiring their leaders to live in our community and allowed them to commute in. Because when they started commuting in from East Mesa and Chandler, et cetera, they were not there to advocate for the schools. They were not there to advocate for the jobs and the healthcare systems. And that's exactly when those communities started to turn. And so if we're going to explore our rural communities together, I would encourage us to go deep and to go broad, because it is not a monolith. I love to say, if you've been to one rural town, you've been to one rural town. And the last thought I will leave you with is, let us not make the mistake of lumping rural and tribal communities together. Our tribal communities are wholly unique. They are nations. And while they are similarly impacted in the sense that they are underinvested, they are remote, they are nations and cannot just be lumped in with our rural communities. So I'll save that for another day, but there is a day in the future where I think we need to explore our tribal communities as well. I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Kimber. You set a high bar starting us off there. And these are all going to be fantastic presentations. I neglected to point out that my sister Donna is online through the Zoom, and she also has been involved in the town hall in different ways in participation. So I'm bringing the family in. They're all coming in to be a part of this. Next up is creating Arizona's vision for the future. That's Chris Kline is going to be coming up and speaking on that. Chris is president and CEO of the Arizona Media Association and Arizona Local News Foundation. It's a coalition of 350 local radio, TV, print, and digital brands with a focus on future-proofing local media and its critical role in community connection. Chris previously led the Arizona Broadcasters Association, spent 15 years working in Arizona local media and radio, TV, and print operations, plus at CNN in Washington, D.C. I'm sure that was fun. And then he also serves on the boards of Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, University of Arizona's Journalism School, Rocky Mountain chapter of the National Academy of Television and Arts and Sciences, plus 3 more. I'm on one board, Chris, okay? And I don't know how you do all the rest of them. So thank you very much for being here. We look forward to your presentation.
Looking for me. Hi, everybody. Thank you for making time. Kimber, I think I want to vote for you after listening to that. So I feel like I got a tall order in front of me. But what I'm here to present to you is, I think, a wholly different topic in a very different way, perhaps, than even the more recent town hall topics have been structured. Creating Arizona's vision for the future. The idea behind this topic is that it's an umbrella opportunity for us to take a step back and do a little bit of a refocus, figure out a synthesis that helps us to navigate what does the next 10, 20, 50 years look like in Arizona. Evelyn, you shared that line, which I wrote down here, that democracy is calling us. And I was getting ready to come up here, I thought, my goodness, with the pitch that I'm here to propose to you all, democracy is calling us to work together and figure out how, in this divisive world, this divisive state, this divisive set of communities that we live in, how do we rally behind a vision that we can all work together on to create measurable change? That's what this pitch is about. So, Darren, thank you for the intro. I come at this from the perspective of, I spend my day job trying to figure out how we use the power of local media to create that community connection, to bring us back together. And so walking through this, that's the perspective upon which I'm going to try to share some insight and hopefully some ideas that give this group some thought as everybody prepares to make some decisions. So I think we got to start with where Arizona is and perhaps where it's going as we consider this is a topic. You see on the screen there in the face of record heat, rapid growth, political friction. I present that 2027 is a great opportunity for us to ask some big questions together and make sure we're actually traveling down the road we want to. Put those two pictures up there on purpose because we got multiple paths in front of us. And if we all can't figure out the shared goals that we agree are important to the future, we can't make anything happen. Arizona is now the fastest growing state in the country, but we're also number 2 in extreme extreme heat deaths, and also last in per student investment in schools, right? Dichotomies here that don't always make sense. My position here is that as we look ahead to 2027 and as we talk about what a future of Arizona can look like, that we got to figure out how to reconcile that. And if we all have different visions for what that future looks like, then we're not going to be successful. So what are those potential visions, right? Because nearly every challenge we face in Arizona is about future readiness. You see the list on the screen there: climate, water, economic, the rural-urban divide, trust in government, aging populations. I'll add mental health to that, especially among our youth, along with workforce development, which we're so focused on as a community right now. I'd offer these aren't separate problems or even separate topics. They actually can come together and signal that with this laundry list of things we're all talking about, that we'll fail at achieving the type of growth and change and health and resilience we want if we can't get everybody in our state to rally behind a shared vision of what we are going to prioritize, how we are going to do that. And let me give you an example, because I think the dichotomy of some of our challenges are the most impactful. 1 in 4 Arizonans are going to be over the age of 60 by 2030. Housing is already expensive. Heat vulnerability is increasing. Transportation is something that's attached to driving. If you are part of a growing elderly population in our state, that is not necessarily the vision for the type of community that feels very sustainable. Now let's look at our youth. 1 in 3 people will be under the age of 25 by 2030. And a lot of them tell us, 1 in 3, based on some data from the Center for the Future of Arizona, that they're looking at leaving Arizona for a better opportunity right now. So if we got a 12-year-old in Page and a 65-year-old in Tucson, and both say they don't see opportunity for the future of our state and they don't understand the vision of where we're headed, we got a problem. And we got to figure out how we can rally back together in order to create a vision that everyone is hopeful for, that everyone is invested in. And whether you live in a rural community or you live in Maricopa or you live in Tucson, that it's the type of place that you believe in. And it's the type of place that you can say, as I look at the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that I'm invested in it emotionally, invested in it financially, invested in it from a community standpoint. So why 2027? Why is this the right topic for 2027? I would argue it's because it's kind of the pivot point of a really important decade. The line you see up on the screen here is that I kind of look at it as our decision decade. We got the combination of climate, AI, complicated demographics, and questions around democracy that are all colliding. And what we do as a state in this decade is going to be very defining for what our future looks like when that future appears to be moving faster than it ever has before. We'll be far enough removed in 2027 from a pandemic that we have a good feel for things that might need to change from our vision. We'll be between 2 censuses, between 2020 and 2030. We'll be between 2 election cycles, just coming off electing new leadership in the state and preparing for another national cycle. And 2027 feels like it could be a really important opportunity for us to all take that step back, talk to one another, listen to one another, and walk away at the end of the year feeling like, of all of these topics and priorities, yes, we have to do this, 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 and this, but together we agree that those are the topics to invest in, and those are the things that will move the needle, that'll make this state the place that is the reason we all live here. So the other question, obviously, that always comes up with each of these topics is, so how's Arizona Town Hall going to have impact? And I would offer, as someone who has only recently learned the amazing potential of this group, that there aren't a lot of organizations in Arizona that can get into every community and have the type of discussions that touch rural and urban in ways that don't become polarized and highly political, and that allow us to talk, just to talk as humans and as neighbors. And if we really want to build a vision for the future of our state, I don't know how we do that if we don't do a lot more talking. It's one thing to have data. It's another thing to have folks we elect into government positions that help lead us. But if our communities as a whole can't have open, honest discussions in ways where our voices aren't raised and we're willing to listen to one another, and then at the end of that, hopefully understand, respect, and rally behind a shared set of priorities for our future, we never get anywhere. So I want to, as we get to the wrap of this presentation, I want to talk just a little bit about how we might frame this, because it does feel like a really big topic. And as I was trying to figure out how could I present this to the group in a way that feels like it works within the framework of town hall, the phrase I kept coming back to was people-powered priorities. My pitch is, let's use 2027 to have those discussions and talk about technology, talk about the challenges of rural Arizona, talk about civic engagement, talk about community connection and climate and housing. Not because the goal out of this topic is to come up with all of the fixes for all of these topics, because that would be overwhelming. It would be more than any of us could ever hope to do. But in the face of so many divided priorities and so many discussions about this is where the money should go, or this is where the time should go, and knowing that all of that is limited, we fail if we can't find a way to prioritize the things that are going to move the needle most. We got to build a platform for discussions in the room like this. That's the pitch here. And that leads into a different kind of pitch I would also make with this particular topic, because I don't look at this pitch as necessarily needing to choose it over rural, or rural over this, or civic engagement, which we're going to talk about in a second, but as the potential, again, of this shared conversation about all of our priorities. And instead of what Town Hall has done such an amazing job over, gosh, the last many cycles of doing, and here's some of the recent topics, to take a step back for a single year and to refocus on the bigger picture. Figure out how it is that we all get to a point again where we understand the challenges, but we also focus on what are the solutions and how are we going to get there. And heading into another election cycle, doing that in 2027 ahead of 2028 also feels like a great reset point for all of us, to set our communities up to have those tough conversations, and then to create a world where, from a civic engagement standpoint, we can allow folks to exercise their democratic rights, to vote accordingly, to prioritize propositions accordingly, not to tell them what they should or shouldn't do, but to give them more information so that they can make decisions for themselves. And obviously, there are stakes involved here, right? If we don't do this, if we don't figure out a way as a community, whether it's through this setup or through something else, we stay reactive, we stay fragmented, we continue to face challenges with education and falling behind, and a lot of the topics from a workforce development we're talking about this year. My pitch is that if we do this, we get closer to something that I know we all love as Arizonans, which is innovation, building a vision that makes our state special, and finding a way, as community connection feels so at risk, even just open up the door and talking to a neighbor and not knowing where that's going to go. If we can find a way to talk about issues in a non-polarizing way and prioritize the things that matter, those are the types of things that over time and over years and decades create that measurable change that we can't even quantify. So I'll leave you with this, and I'll leave you just with the text on the right, because to me, the next Arizona isn't a mystery to all of us. It's whatever we choose to make it. So my pitch in presenting this topic for consideration is, then let's not make it a mystery, and let's have the conversations, and let's use what Town Hall already does so well to foster that discussion and foster that dialogue and end up with a place where we can all focus better together. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that very much. Next up is civic education and engagement, and Tara Bartlett is going to be coming forward to share her thoughts and her convincing arguments for that topic. Tara is a clinical assistant professor at the Mary Lou Fulton College for Teaching and Learning Innovation at Arizona State University. Her focus is on public policy, civic education and engagement, and democratic innovations in school communities. She co-directs the Arizona Civic Coalition, where she focuses on school participatory budgeting, Project Citizen, We the People, and several U.S. State Department programs. And on the personal note, she is deeply rooted in Arizona and a proud localist, as she says in her bio. Tara spent 14 years as a middle school teacher and enjoys exploring Arizona's landscapes, culture, and food scene. And I want to also point out that Tara was very involved in our Bridging Divide that you heard mentioned, a presentation that we did a couple of years ago. So Tara, welcome back, and we look forward to your presentation.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Tara and Co, for inviting me to come and speak around this important topic that I am deeply passionate about, and hopefully can not just share some of the information today around this topic, but hopefully this does become the topic because I think it's needed. So civic engagement and education. I would like to actually start us off with our own reflection around this topic. Take a moment and think to yourself, what was your favorite civic memory of your life? All right, I know we're post lunch, we've been sitting for a bit. Take 30 seconds. I know this is dangerous to ask, but take 30 seconds and turn to an elbow or knee partner and share amongst both of you your favorite civic memory. All right, we are going to come back together. I was tempted to have one of the board members come and ring the bell, but I think we can go back together just with my voice. I was going to say, I might need to invite someone with the bell. All right, out of curiosity, with your favorite civic memory that you just shared or thought of, how many of you did it have to do with some type of voting experience? How many of you did it have to do with some type of volunteer, service learning, helping others in the community? Okay. How many of your memories had to deal with some type of experience, some type of field trip as a child or as an adult? You were maybe in some space where you had some type of learning around, history, civic related content. Right, right. And lastly, and I did hear, how many of you had a memory that was related to your schooling experience around civics? And what's interesting is that's the least amount of hands in the air. School is essentially the foundation of our country's democracy, public schooling. Common schools back in the late 1800s, post-Reconstruction era. Essentially, civics is meant to be issue and interest driven by students. So them pursuing something of their interest, an issue that they see in their community. It's also meant to be relational, right? Working with other people, not in isolation. And it's also meant to be community embedded. So knowing what's going on in your community, knowing who you can go to, knowing who you can work with. And that sometimes is the missing gap that we see in K-12 civic education and then prolonged engagement. I do just want to have a grounding of these two terms. And this comes from not just my research, but I did cite up there, and I'm more than happy to share some of this with you. Civic education really dials down to both that teaching and learning back and forth process that happens. And it focuses on the knowledge, the attitudes, and the skills. And we'll dive into those in a moment. And I did put an asterisk up there around that responsible citizenship, because I do want to emphasize that's a small c citizen, because you can be a citizen of your neighborhood, your school community, your broader community, your city, your town, your state, and yes, the nation. But when I talk about citizen today, I'm not referring to a nationalistic sense of citizen. But it also dials down to the need for that knowledge of our constitutional republic and the values that are democratic principles and processes, and how to navigate them. And then in turn, that lends itself to that prolonged civic engagement, which really is thinking about the action piece. So what are you going to do with that knowledge? What are you going to do with that attitude that you've cultivated? What are you going to do with those skills that you've honed in and developed? Now you have to put them into action. And that's where the change happens in communities. So just thinking about this framework, the CASAS framework, so knowledge, attitude, skills, and practices, actions, some people call dispositions for attitudes. There's all kinds of them out in the literature, but this really encapsulates essentially what civic education and engagement should entail in a K-12 system and beyond. So thinking about the knowledge, we really do need a fundamental understanding of how our government works. What are those structures? What are those processes? How to navigate that? Then we also need to have really that attitude, the empathy, the care, the understanding, and even what the town hall stands for. Being able to come together and listen to each other's stories and lived experiences, but also that self-efficacy that people then develop to know that they can make an impact in their communities. And then skills. Being able to actually apply something that you have learned to make a change in that community. Critical thinking, civil discourse, project management, all of those are skills that are then learned and then taught. And the last is actions. And these become those lifelong habits of engagement. And it's not just voting, right? It's civic engagement beyond voting. It's reaching out to elected officials, non-elected officials in local government, city departments when you have an issue. It's knowing where to go when you want to solve problems in your community, but it's beyond that voting aspect only. So really these CASAs are delivered in a K-12 system through the 3 Ps. And these are practices, so things that schools and school communities instill is kind of their ethos or their mission of what they do on a day-to-day. It also can be policies, and that could be from state, national, all the way down to very local, even in essentially a classroom. And then lastly, actual programs. And these are the delivery models to students and school communities, families, parents. And these 3 Ps really shape how students and young people then develop their civic engagement. I am going to outline each of these. So the first one right here are those proven practices. This is not my work. This is derived from 2 reports. One was from 2012 and then the other from 2017, both of which grounded these in decades-long research about essentially what works in civic education. As you can see, some of them are pretty much a no-brainer, right? Instruction and social studies content, geography, history, civics, government. But some of those are probably less familiar or something that many school communities don't necessarily prioritize. And so thinking up there around, again, the student well-being that we've had, already mentioned today, students leading decision-making, either in a classroom or across their school community or even a district. And I'm not talking about our usual suspects of student councils, but really all students, right? So these are the 10 proven practices. And for policy, there is a national policy menu that's curated by an organization called Civic. These are the policies that across the board they have found to be most effective in having strong civic engagement outcomes post the civic education experience. So really thinking about this in the Arizona context, I'm going to go down the list here. We do not have a middle school civics course. We have standards. Just as every K-12 grade level has civic standards, we do not have a dedicated middle school civic course. We do, however, have a high school course. However, it is only one semester. It is often during a junior or senior year. Students, they're horizon looking, right? They're not necessarily embedded in like, oh, what's happening in the day-to-day? How does this affect me personally or my family or friends? So the timing of it is not ideal. And again, it's one semester and it's often couched in some type of either American history or American government class, lacking again that action, that student-driven interest, and that community embeddedness. We do have the media and information literacy standards. We do have a civic assessment. In fact, we were the first US state to actually create a civic assessment, in a sense, you could say, in partnership with the Joe Foss Institute back in 2015. It is essentially the test that naturalized citizens take. And that is our only high school graduation requirement right now in the state of Arizona. Students can start taking it in 8th grade and they can take it as many times as they want because it's a multiple choice test and they need 70% to pass. I don't know about you, but that doesn't speak to me that someone's readily able to engage in our society. We do have a seal, the Civics Literacy Seal. We were the second state after Illinois to adopt that. And it's a special kind of sticker that goes on a student's diploma once they graduate high school that shows they went above and beyond essentially in the civic world through volunteer hours, other curricular activities, passing, their social studies courses with high grade point averages. So we do have that. I will say that this past year was our first year that we had over 1,000 students get that civic seal. Before it was in the hundreds, low hundreds. So that's a celebration of itself. However, we have 74-ish, 75-ish thousand students graduating from Arizona high schools every year. So we're still very low in the number of students that are receiving that seal. We do not give credit for service learning and volunteerism at a state policy level. Certain school districts or student clubs might do that, but there's nothing ingrained within state policy. And then nor do we provide sustainable funding for K-12 civic education. We've had some one-off bills in the past that went to specific programs, but there's nothing baked in terms of civic funding. That was cut 3 school superintendents ago and has not been restored. And then lastly, we do, I think I skipped one. No, I did not. Okay. We do provide professional development in civics. And that is actually a one-off and a very self-select mode. So if you think about who is taking professional development in civics, it probably is your civics teachers, but I will argue every teacher is a civics teacher and we need all teachers taking that professional development. We have lots in Arizona of civic education programs. Happy to say that many of them actually were started here in Arizona. So of those, kids voting, iCivic started under here, underneath Sandra Day O'Connor. School participatory budgeting started here. And then the seal, which the Arizona Department of Education, the Civic Seal, we were the second state. And then we oftentimes have many of our youth participating in these other programs, often at a national level during national competition times. So we have a lot of these civic programs baked in. So you might be wondering then, what's the problem? It all sounds pretty okay. Well, there's a lot of inequities that are built in. There's a lot of structural inequalities. There's a lot of lacking pedagogy, and there's a lot of issues around partisanship. I'm going to talk about each of those being pillars that are cracking in our foundation for civic education and engagement that is not going to then lead to uplifting those competent, engaged young citizens that we want to be making change within their communities. So that first one, the structural inequalities piece, that really dials, I would say, almost 2 decades ago to No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind, 2001, Bush administration really gutted anything social studies and civics because the standardized test movement around math and science and reading and writing took hold. It did not actually get replaced until 2015, until the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, underneath Obama. During that entire time, there's lots of data that has shown that students did not receive social studies instruction. We have an entire generation of young people that really did not have that experience. On top of that, those young people are oftentimes our young teachers. And so we have a cyclical effect of now students in classrooms not receiving high quality pedagogical social studies instruction. Those structural inequalities also lend itself to many places, rural places, students who are multilingual learners, students who have disabilities, and other historically minoritized groups within school systems not also receiving that high quality civics instruction. Thinking about the lacking pedagogy, I did touch on, some of our teachers don't receive oftentimes that type of teacher training around civic education of what works and those 10 proven practices even administrators aren't receiving, right? In teacher training programs, and not putting my college or university on blast, but we don't have a dedicated course on teaching civics. There might be a social studies methods course that teaches, here's how you do a structured academic controversy, here's how you do a Socratic seminar, but there's nothing that is inherent to civics. And so you have many teachers that are going out to the field, especially elementary teachers who are generalists, who aren't necessarily going to self-seek any professional development in social studies or civics. And so you have that cyclical effect of lacking pedagogy. And the last one, partisanship. Public schools have become very partisan places. And this has been an issue of not only what gets taught, but how it gets taught. And we're missing a grounding in what civics is. Oftentimes, civics is being called, it's action civics. We're making students into activists. Well, that might be the case for some, but that's not the entirety of what civics does or is. And so thinking about how can we rebrand and recommunicate and create this civic renewal of understanding of what it should look like in K-12 classrooms, but then also equip our educators and school leaders and school communities to be able to deliver that because it's owed to our young people. And if anything, our younger generations are signaling what it is going to look like in the future for our country. And when a majority of young people are saying that democracy doesn't work for them, or they don't believe in democracy as a model of government, that is alarming. And so thinking about how we can backpedal, but then also uplift our current students in our K-12 system around civic education. I think it's timely. There's not been an Arizona town hall strictly on K-12 civic education. There was one on civic engagement. I think it was over 10 years ago at this point. It was a while ago. Totally different socio-political landscape at the time as well. But this alone, Center for the Future of Arizona and their Arizona We Want report, 76% of Arizonans are saying we need more civic education. That's great. How is that going to be done? We don't have sustainable funding. We're often lacking policies, understanding, community support, teacher understanding and support. There's a whole ecosystem that needs to be built up for that. And then the outside quotes are actually from the town hall that Tara Jackson and co did this past summer, traveling the state. And I captured some that essentially is from every region of the state. There's the Northeast one. I believe that was done in Sholo, Lake Havasu, on the west side. But then also down south in Tucson and Cochise, there's many people that are asking for more civic education and realizing that this is an important topic and an important need in our state. So I leave you with this. 2027 is going to be the year after our 250th anniversary as a country. I think it's timely in thinking about how are we going to deliver a better civic experience for our young people, our teachers, our school communities, our families, and our broad communities post America 250, because it's needed right now. And I don't think I need to spell out everything that is happening that is making this a very dire, urgent need. So thank you.
Thank you, Tara. 3 amazingly important topics covered extremely well by our presenters. And now it's your turn. So thank you to our speakers, Tara, Chris, and Kimber, for sharing so much great information. What we're going to do now is the part of the process that I described earlier that we're going to be breaking into our panel discussions. And thank you so much, everybody, for for sticking around to this last important piece to help us to make the decision on what we're going to choose for our topic. So back to our pink piece of paper, everybody's name is on one column or the other here, either panel hedgehog, panel Ocotillo, panel Saguaro, or our online. They're already in their group, so no worries there with Linda. So for panel hedgehog, that's going to be out the door and up the stairs. And where's Elizabeth? Elizabeth, okay, is going to be the chair. And where's Jan? Okay, and Jan. Okay, so the two of them, if you guys want to walk on out and you can follow, if you are in panel hedgehog, follow the leaders there, Elizabeth and Jan. For panel Ocotillo, that is downstairs in the room right next door to us. So if you go out this back door, make a left, Ocotillo will be in the room next door. Okay, didn't screw that up. That's Joyce Grossman. She's waving her hands, walking out the door. You can follow Joyce, and Nina will be the recorder. Panel Saguaro is going to be staying right here. So panel Saguaro, you don't need to go anywhere. And that's Pat in the back. Pat, wave your hand. And Arlen is also in here. There's Arlen. So stay here if you're in panel Saguaro. And you guys, we have until about 2 o'clock. We have at 2 o'clock, we're going to start those. So you have 5 or 10 minutes to hit the bathroom or get a drink before that starts. But make sure you're in your room by 2 o'clock. We'll see you guys back here in 1 hour.